So we have to have this conversation about not just fingerprinting, but just renewal and all that kind of stuff. I know it's right there on the homepage of the state board website now, but I don't know if you want to screen share or you just want to talk about it. But I thought maybe a step-by-step tutorial on what actually is required now. There was some confusion about the ink fingerprints versus the card.
Mhm.
I was going to get out. I was going to hold up my card to show people what it looks like. This is the card. Can't see.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, that's what it looks like,
Yep.
which I had for being a real estate agent. So all I had to do, which I just renewed in May, I went online, filled out my renewal application, uploaded my CE, and I called DPS. I got the phone number off of the website that's on the homepage of the State Board of Massage Therapy. And I called up DPS and I just said, hey, I already have this card. Can I add the profession of massage therapy to it? And they said, sure. Done. It was
Yeah, easy peasy.
so yeah, if you already have one,
Yeah, it makes it that much easier.
now you make it bigger. Yeah.
All right. Now we're going places. Okay. All right. The number one thing is a lot of people keep calling they think that this is a fingerprint card. And there's a big difference between the fingerprint card and a non-IVP clearance card. They're two very different things, but they do very similar things. So the actual inked or digital fingerprint card is required for Arizona State Board of Massage Therapy. And it's a federal background check.
Okay.
And in order to obtain a non-IVP clearance card, you have to have new prints done. So even if one is licensed already in the state of Arizona, you've already had your prints done, but in order to obtain the non-IVP clearance card, you have to have a new set of prints done in order to obtain it. And that is because the non-IVP clearance card is obtained through the DPS website and not the Arizona State Board of Massage Therapy. So it's a different organization. And that is what is now required in order to obtain a new license in the state of Arizona. So anybody who has a current license, they'll have to have one upon renewal. They'll have to have the non-IVP clearance card. And yes, they will have to have their prints redone if they don't already have a non-IVP clearance card, like the one that you just showed.
Okay. All right. So then if they're getting started and you have the website here, this is where they should start. And then maybe we can just kind of go through this. There's initial application.
Yep.
And
So here's
renewal.
here's the initial application. So obviously they're going to list all of the qualifications. So in the state of Arizona, you have to have a minimum of 700 hours. If you graduated from school outside of Arizona, then you're required to pass the MBLEx. It says on the licensing exam from either FSMTB or NCPTMB, the one from FSMTB is the MBLEx test. Currently, right now, Arizona's schools that are approved by private post-secondary education are exempt from having to take the MBLEx exam.
Right. Versus like I'm licensed through the PPSE as well for the Arizona School of Medical Massage and Wellness, but I'm not federally accredited. So my students in this vocational, it's a 700-hour program, all that thing, but they do have to take the MBLEx exam.
Right. And it's not a bad thing. I think a lot of people get turned off. They're like, oh, I have to take the MBLEx exam. It's actually, I see it as a credential that you've had the training, you're able to pass an exam and apply the skills safely to the public.
Yes, and also, I mean, it's fresh in your head. and it's easy to take then. And if you want to move in 5 or 10 years and maybe we don't have reciprocity in another state and you have to take that exam 5 or 10 years after you graduate, it's going to be a lot harder than fresh out of school. So even if we didn't require it, I would still insist they take it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and most states do require MBLEx exam in order to work in their state for reciprocity license as well.
Now, we're a reciprocity state, so it doesn't apply here, I guess, but
Yeah, I don't quite understand why that is. I think I don't know why.
here's the thing that I was saying is like there's some people who went through a school
Mhm.
who they didn't have to take it because they went through a US Department of Education
Mhm.
school. So they didn't have to take it, but now they're saying they want to take the MBLEx. But I was talking to the guy from FSMTB who said, but they don't do that. If they're already licensed, then they no longer take the MBLEx. Then they're taking like board certification, the NCBTMB board certification, if they want to show that credential, because you don't take MBLEx as a licensed therapist. But you could, depending on the state, if you were going to go there and they required that test,
Right.
but it could be either or.
Yeah.
So there was a little bit of confusion there as well, as like, well, which tests do I take? And his advice was like, if you were already licensed to do the NCBTMB, but if you're a student, whether you go to a federally accredited or state license, then you take the MBLEx. Either way, you should take it. So
Interesting. Yeah, I'm not familiar with that aspect. When I graduated many moons ago, I took the NCBTMB exam.
me too.
And MBLEx wasn't even around yet. So I have not taken MBLEx, but my understanding is that the MBLEx, the way that it's formatted and the types of questions that are on it are very similar to what the NCB exam was before. I don't know what it is now. So
Yeah. I have lots of MBLEx prep stuff and NCBTMB prep stuff. So if anybody wants to do like study groups or do one of those days, let me know. So
absolutely. And I think an important thing to point out about both exams is that a lot of times it's not so much about knowing the answer to the question. A lot of people panic. They're like, we didn't learn this in school. We didn't talk about this in school. But it's a matter of knowing your root words, your prefixes, your suffixes, and being able to deduce the correct answer out of the question being asked based on what's given, even if you're not even familiar with the terms that are being thrown at you. You can usually choose the right answer because there's going to be two of them that are 100% completely wrong. One that's going to make you think, could it be? And then there's one that's going to be absolutely right based on knowing your root words, your suffixes, and your prefixes.
yeah, and I think when studying too, simply going through and you're going, oh, I got this right, I got that wrong. Don't just look at what answer is right, but why are the wrong answers wrong, and then study a little bit on that. And yeah, those are some good tips anyway.
Absolutely. And I think ABMP also has an exam coach
Oh yeah.
that I found to be extremely valuable because you can take, I believe there's over 600 practice tests that you can take in each category. And
Yeah.
then once you take all of that, then you're eligible to take like the 10 practice exams
Mhm.
that mimic the actual MBLEx test. And if you get at least a 70% on those practice exams, you are very likely to pass the MBLEx test. That's the statistics that they've thrown out there.
Yes, I've done it myself just to check and see how it is. I like how it's categorized.
Mhm.
I've also liked the AMTA's exam prep as well, and that one you can take over and over as well. It's very similar, and it'll show you, it's mixed up different categories, but it'll show you what your best and weakest area is. And you can make your flashcards. You can make, is so great and it's free. So I like
Yeah,
that one as well. And then MTB also has a manual. I believe it's $25, and that one is categorized and gives you sample questions, and that one's really good too. So, and then the Sandy Fritz books, they have a MBLEx prep in that one as well, and the ebook on Vital Source. So I think if, you can't get enough studying. There's Kahoots out there, there's Blookits, there's all kinds of tools. So,
yeah, there's a lot of tools, a lot of different resources for people to study for the MBLEx. And then obviously we got support systems like you and some other CE providers too that will help tutor and help people feel a little bit more comfortable about that test anxiety that they get when they got to sit down and start answering questions.
yeah, I believe Jimmy G also
Yeah.
does a little tutoring and help and maybe a class here and there as well. So shout out to Jimmy.
Yes, shout out to Jimmy. There's also another gal who is, I don't know, I think she's doing live classes. Her name is Diane Moore, Mohr.
Yeah.
And she's been doing a lot of study groups now too for MBLEx as well.
Yeah. And then I don't know if down in Tucson, but Mo Taith with this
Oh,
Tucson
yeah, yeah.
are down there too. So yeah.
Shout out to all of them.
Yeah.
They're all great. Okay, so back to the initial licensing. So obviously you have to go to school for massage therapy to even be considered for a license in massage therapy. Yes, we know that there are a lot of people who practice without a license, and they're practicing illegally. And I throw that out there because as a massage therapist, people will encounter those who are offering services without a license. You can easily find out if somebody has a license by visiting the board website and using the massage therapist search tool. And you can type somebody's name in there, including your own, to find out if your license is active, if it's expired, if there is an action against somebody's license. Those actions against somebody's license stay up for 5 years on the board website.
Maybe you can show where they go to search for that on while you
Yeah,
put it on the
absolutely.
screen.
Absolutely. Let's go
While
here.
you're looking for that, I'm just going to give a little plug for my CE center here. If you need last minute continuing ed, we have weekend workshops almost every weekend too. So you can go to az-medicalmassageschool.com and then go on the CE center tab, and there's a whole bunch listed on there.
Wonderful, wonderful. And I've been sending a lot of people your way because I'm getting a plethora of phone calls and emails. I'm like, tell Tammy I sent you.
I try. I do private lessons too. So sometimes I'll take somebody for a private lesson on a day I'm not teaching, and then I'll just put a shout out on Facebook, on my Facebook page or Instagram, and be like, hey, anybody want to join us? We're doing it today. So never feel, I might not always say yes, but it never hurts to ask.
When do you sleep?
I see these bags. I am looking for some help for substitute teaching and things like that. Hopefully I get enough entry level students for the fall, and then maybe I can hire some admin as well, but
Nice.
one thing at a time.
One thing at a time, right?
Mhm.
So in the website, you're going to click on status here up at the top, and then you're going to scroll down to massage therapist search tool.
Hiding right there. Yeah.
It's hiding. You got to
Bigger.
scroll a little bit. Now I'm going to use my own name.
Oh, you better be legit.
I better be. I better be. Refresh data. And now is it not going to do it for me? Come on. Here I am.
There you are.
Okay. Here's my name. Now, don't panic. This address right here is my business address. When you're filling out your initial application, you can put on there what you want the public record to be as far as address. So, no, you do not have to have your home address listed on the website. People panic about that sometimes. They don't want people to know where they live.
Yeah.
You do want to put, you have to put an address on there. And so I always recommend that it is a business address. and they won't accept, I believe, I'm not positive on this, but I thought they don't accept PO boxes because it has to be a physical address. So it's either an employment address of where you're working, or it is a residential address.
I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah. So you can look up anybody's name here, whether it's the last name or whether it's the first name. You can also search by first name, address, even by the license number. And this is handy because if somebody, you know, and just throwing it out there for extra information, because we see a lot of this at the board. There's a lot of fraudulent activity out there and people hijacking, you know, fake licenses and putting fake numbers out there. You can look up somebody's number on the board website and find out if they actually exist.
Nice.
So there, I would love to see more people visiting the website to gather this information. And then also, you know, educating people on what the board does and what the board does not do. So where the board is here to uphold the current laws that are in place for massage therapists to protect the public. It is not an entity that creates laws. So when people say, why can't the board do something about XYZ? Well, we're following the law and we don't make the laws, we just follow the laws. So if you want to see changes made in the laws that surround our regulations, that has to be done through legislature.
Okay.
And then
Great.
it gets very political.
Yeah.
Fine. Okay, so let's go back home and go back to this application. When you get into this initial application, there's all of these things that you can click on that you're going to need. So here's your application materials. You are going to have to, when you, we'll just go over here for a moment. When you're applying for initial license, what we're recommending now is that if you have a student who is currently enrolled into a program, it's better to get a head start on their non-IVP clearance card, because you can do that before you graduate. And
it lasts for 6 years, so it's not
lasts,
like you're going to be, I'm short.
exactly. And so that actually will make the process faster when you finish the program and you're waiting for the federal background check, which again is the inked fingerprints. Yes, you have to have them twice, unfortunately, but the process goes a lot faster. And if there's anything in one's background that would prevent them from becoming eligible for a non-IVP clearance card, which those things are listed on the DPS website, you may have to get what is called a good faith exemption or have those things expunged from your record in order to be eligible to obtain a non-IVP clearance card, which you have to have for the Arizona license. And there's a whole list of things. So even if it was 20 years ago, and it was something, you know, petty theft, anything, those are all things that can prevent somebody from getting a non-IVP clearance card. So if they have that in the history, now's a good time to working with DPS and the court systems on getting that good faith exemption, so they're eligible for the card.
Sure.
Once you have that, and I like that they have the link up here too. We're always recommending live scan for the digital prints. And the reason for that is because live scan will redo your prints for free if they get rejected during the background check.
Great.
Yes. And so once, you know, that there's the two different digital prints that get done. One is for the non-IVP clearance card, and then the other gets sent to the board. Then the board investigator sends it to the FBI. The FBI sends it back to the investigator with a list of if any of the prints have gotten rejected. And then from there, the ones that have been approved by the FBI get sent to licensing for approval. The rejected ones have to get redone. So it's a very long process. So a lot of times people think, well, I sent my card in, why is it taking so long? And it's because it has to go to the FBI, and the FBI background check does take 6 to 8 weeks.
Okay.
So it's not a short process. And so the investigator basically has to sit there and wait to get those cards back. The other thing is that they will only allow the board to send a certain amount of cards at one time. And there has to be a certain amount of cards in order for them to send at one time. So they won't take just one card. They have to have a stack of, I think, 12 in order to send them initially. So they have to wait. So sometimes there is a little bit of a wait.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, all these little things that take up everybody's time and
Yeah.
make the process a little bit longer. So
And then on live scan, I've been on there too. I know that when you click on that, then you can pick a location and it'll show you all the different places you can choose from. I know by my school, there's a UPS store very close by where you can go and get your fingerprints done. So
yeah, they're everywhere. So I mean, if you can't find a live scan place, I mean, it'd be
yeah.
there's so many of them. So let's see what else. So you've got your application materials. So when you're actually filling out the application, what I do know is that there, as you're filling it out, there's going to be a click here button on the online version of the application where you have to pay the application fee. And the application fee is not generally done separately. So you may have to bounce back and forth from the payment to the actual application. I will say this because this seems to be a common thing. You have to click the payment button. Do not send the board a photocopy of your debit card.
Oh no.
It's happened a lot, actually.
I figured you said it for a reason.
Yeah, so I figure
Unfortunately.
I'm just gonna, yeah, so there is a way to pay it online without sending a copy of your debit card to the board staff. Let's see.
If there's, oh, it says right there, I think it's the last line. I was going to ask about foreign students because I've been having a lot of calls about that. So they do
Yep.
have to pass one of those tests.
So here's what's interesting. So there was a new legislation that just went through this year. And it happened very quickly. The board was not consulted on it. The massage therapy board was actually, the majority was in opposition of eliminating the English proficiency exam. However, the bill did pass, and I think we're still in the 90-day from when it was voted on to when it will actually go into effect, that students will no longer have to take an English proficiency exam in order to obtain an Arizona state license.
Oh, I thought you were saying that they would, so they don't have to take it. Starting when? Pretty
So
fast?
it was just voted on, and so usually once it's voted on and it passes, there's like a 90-day period before it goes into effect. So I don't know what that date is, but my understanding is that we have until that 90 days. So anybody within that 90 days is still going to be required to take it, but after the 90 days is up, English proficiency test will no longer be required.
Wow.
Yeah.
But they still, like, some people have to take the MBLEx, and that's only English or Spanish, I believe.
Correct. Yes.
So if they're
Yes.
going to waive that, I'm thinking that's something that people would have to lobby for, or whatever is getting more
Yes.
languages available. But
Yeah, I
understand
don't know how successful that will be. I mean, obviously, the United States is a melting pot, and we should be catering to multiple languages. But I don't know how, I mean, something like that would take a long, long time.
Yeah, because you have to have an individual. You can't have like the AI, the artificial intelligence do it, because it won't be, especially those word problems or questions where it's a scenario type question.
Right,
They might fail the question just because it doesn't translate correctly. So you have
Mhm.
to have an actual person, and that takes a long time. It's got to be peer reviewed. And yeah, somebody was saying for one language, it would probably cost well over $1 million to have that done
Oh, wow,
for
yeah,
per language. So I don't know why that expensive, but I guess that's just the time with you're paying all the multiple people to review it, to get
right,
something like that approved
right,
federally.
right. So you do have to have evidence of US citizenship as well. And then there are some loopholes with that, and the loopholes with that fall in under universal licensing. So people who are moving from different countries or from a different state or are foreign, then a lot of times there's a little bit of a loophole as far as what is needed. They have to have a green card or visa, obviously, to get licensed in a state. We've noticed that there's some fraudulent activity with the green cards as well. So if a green card is expired and then all of a sudden they're notified that their green card is expired, their license will expire on the day that the green card expires. What we find is that all of a sudden, like a few days later, they have another green card, and we know that it takes much longer than 3 days to get a new green card. Otherwise, I mean, I
Yeah,
know a lot of people that would love to get their green card in 3 days. That would
yeah,
be amazing.
that'd be
Doesn't
nice.
happen that way. So, just some little tidbits of information of what the board gets to see behind closed doors as well.
Yeah.
Um, so here's your payment button. You'll have to click on this. And so click on this, do not send a copy of your debit card. Um, and then all of this is with your universal and Arizona resident proof. Even with universal, you do have to prove that you have an Arizona residence. So it also has to indicate your place of employment on the application as well. So we want to know that the place that you are working at is a legitimate place as well. Citizen, alien status. All of these things are listed as required documentation to submit with the initial applications, even with reciprocity applications, to make sure people are who they say they are. Additional forms, you can download them here rather than filling them out online. Okay. One of the things another thing I wanted to mention too, let's see if I can find it. Okay, here. So forms. This is very, very important. Just like your driver's license, if you move to a different house, if you move at all, you have to notify the board of your new address.
Yeah.
And so so it is required to do it within 10 days of moving. The same is true is if you have a name change. So if you get married or if you get divorced or you're changing your name for whatever legal reason, you have to inform the board within 10 days of that happening. The same is true for mandatory criminal reporting. If you get in trouble with the law, you have to report it to the board within 10 days. Now, I will say, if you got a ticket or a citation because you had a campfire in a place where you were not supposed to have a campfire, that is not something that you need to report to the board.
Or a speeding ticket.
Speeding ticket, probably not. But if you got a ticket for like DUI or theft or anything that involves moral turpitude, prostitution, solicitation, aggravated assault, all of those things qualify to notify the board within 10 days.
That makes
Yeah, and that's one of the benefits of now having the non-IVP clearance card as part of the licensing process, because with the regular FBI background check, we rely on the mandatory criminal reporting, which most people don't do. If they're getting in trouble, they don't tell the board. But with the non-IVP clearance card, it's live reporting right now. So if somebody gets in trouble and they have a non-IVP clearance card as part of their identity, whatever happened is going to be reported to all the boards they are associated with.
Good. And we should go over renewals too, because that's what I'm
Yes.
getting in the CE classes. This licensed therapists that are like, what do I do now?
So the only difference, so I'll start with this. With the what's most important about renewals is that they don't wait until the last minute to do it. And now, as a continuing education provider myself, and you are, and Jimmy is, and Devonna Willis, all of these other people that are providing continuing education, we're being overwhelmed with emails and phone calls of people needing, I need my 12
Right now.
right now. I need them right now. You should be pursuing a renewal at least 60 days before your expiration date.
Yeah.
And not getting your CEs in that time. You should have already had your CEs at least 60 days before that expiration date.
Yeah, so that changed in January, I think the 13th, where it went from all online, the 24 hours to 12 being necessary to be live. And I think quite a few people just aren't on social media or not reading their email and didn't know.
Or
And
don't go to the board website. And I think that as massage therapists, I think it's our responsibility to check on the website every now and then and see, because things do happen. The 12 live and the 12 online is not a new law. It has been a law since the board's inception. The only reason why it changed to all online was because of COVID.
right.
And so in order to be fair for all massage therapists who are licensed to be able to take advantage of 24 hours online, it went through 2 cycles of renewals. And so I think that's where people got confused that that was the law. And now they thought that the board was changing the law, that it needs to be 12 in person. It always has been. It's just that mandate was lifted. So 12 have to be in person and live, and the other 12 can be online.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So you can get all 24 in person.
Yeah.
If you want, and which I think is great. With the renewals now, they also have to have the non-IVP clearance card. So if they don't have that, they need to have that before they can even begin the renewal process.
Right.
What I'm understanding right now is that once you get the new prints and you fill out the non-IVP clearance card application from the DPS website, it's taking about 2 weeks to obtain the non-IVP clearance card. If there's no holdups.
So maybe we should show the link of like, where is that on the page before?
I think it's on the main page.
And then there it is.
Yep. So here's the DPS link. This is where one would go to fill out the application for the non-IVP clearance card.
So go ahead and click it. And then,
And so you're going to go for apply for a new clearance card, non-IVP. I actually haven't done this process myself yet, so.
well, so I did just in May,
Mhm.
just to see.
Mhm.
And then it came up with a PDF
Mhm.
that you were supposed to fill out and then print it, or you could print and fill it out, and then you take that to the we just said it, the fingerprint place in UPS
Live scan.
live scan. You can take your PDF. Yeah, so that's it. So
There
you
you go.
take that to the live scan place, and then they do the on the glass your fingerprint, and then send it in for you.
Yep. And then we're at, I believe, let's see, we were at the very bottom. BMT. This is the one we're gonna click. And you can fill this out online now, but I think before when you had done it, you had to download it, but now it's you can fill it out online.
Okay. Yeah, I think that changed in June or
Yeah,
something.
exactly.
Well, it's
Well,
June
I'm
now.
gonna save that for myself later. Okay, yeah, and so that's how you get your non-IVP clearance card, and that is on the main page at the board website.
Homepage of the board website.
Yep.
Then you go to pay and then you upload your CE and all that on the other one.
Yes, yes. Now that's one of the things that has changed as far as process. It's not that the law changed. So a lot of people were panicking. They're like, oh my gosh, I have to upload my certificates. Before the application required one to affirm that they took the 24 hours. And a lot of people said yes. And many people gambled that they would not get audited. Well, we've only got one license processor, so the chance of you getting audited were pretty slim.
I've been audited.
I
So
was
it
audited
happens.
too. I got audited too a long time ago when I first moved here. It was like my first renewal, I was audited.
But I'm the opposite. I always have way too many CE. So
Mhm.
I just load 24 hours up and I don't list them all because there's too many to list. And I just put in the criteria that's required.
Exactly, exactly. And so now what's required with the new software that the board has is that it does require you to upload your CE certificates.
Oh, that's right. I did have to scan them
Yeah,
and put them in
yeah.
there.
And for a lot of people, it wasn't a big deal. What we did find out was that there were a lot of people practicing for a decade or longer who have never taken a CE class because they had no idea they were supposed to take them.
That's awful.
And that's why I'm such an advocate about people checking the board website, because things do change. And our executive director, Tom Augerton, is so good about updating the front page of the website. That's about all he can change that he has access to. And if somebody is not happy with the way something's worded, like, you know what, this here does not make sense to me. It doesn't make sense to a lot of people. There was something that came up. It was about rewording that you needed 12 in person and 12 online hours. And the way that it was originally worded on the website, it wasn't super clear. And it was confusing for some people. So with that feedback, I was like, hey, Tom, can we reword this? And within minutes, he had it reworded. So it's a matter of like, hey, if you ask, instead of cry about it, sometimes things can get done. And on this front page of the website, things can get changed as far, to make it more clear. So
Yeah.
in the event that somebody is practicing without a license or has harmed a client, there is a direct way to get a hold of our special investigator as well. I think it was up here. Hold on. Maybe it was on the side over here.
I'm getting dizzy.
Sorry, I know I go on here all the time and I'm like, oh, it's somebody changed something again, and I gotta scroll through it. At any rate, there are forms on here. I believe it's under forms that you can fill out a
Right there. Complaint form.
yeah, that I don't know why I didn't say that before. So complaint form. So the complaint form will automatically go to our investigator.
Okay.
And so I do want to speak a little bit about that. If one is harmed, and I talk about it because I want massage therapists to let their clients know too, that if they've had a bad experience with another massage therapist and they want to submit a complaint, which unfortunately does happen. We've had people who have been physically assaulted, sexually assaulted by license holders in Arizona. But if they're not willing to testify against them, they're only willing to fill out the complaint. It becomes a he said, she said, and the board can't do much about it without actual testimony. There are ways that we can protect the identity of the complainant. Since we are virtual in our meetings, we always recommend that one, they change their name on their screen to just their first and last initial, and they don't have to be on screen. They can just have their initials up there.
Okay.
So they don't have to be on video. So that helps protect their anonymity. But like I said, we can't do a whole lot with the complaints unless somebody's willing to testify.
Yeah.
So that's the complaint form. What else can I tell you, Tammy?
When are the board meetings if people want to listen in on that?
Absolutely. So board meetings are held the fourth Monday of every month, unless that falls on a holiday. And then I have declared that if it falls on a holiday, that we're going to have it the week before.
Okay. And
Okay.
then is it usually like 9 a.m.?
It starts at 9 a.m. We're scheduled to do 9 to 1. I generally talk really fast and I whip those meetings out pretty quickly. So we're usually done in an hour and a half, 2 hours, depending on how many cases we've got going on. The nice thing is right now that our moderator, who's also our license processor, he's amazing, has the meetings recorded, video and audio, and has them up on the website after they've happened. He usually has the audio up the same day. Video takes a little bit longer, but if you go to meetings on the front page, and let's say we scroll down here. So this was the meeting in May. Here's the video for the meeting. Here's the agenda, and here's the MP3. So you can actually listen or watch the entire meeting. And you can also look at the agenda to see what's on the agenda, to see, do I even want to watch that? Every single meeting that has ever taken place is on here.
No.
And so all you've got to do is click. Now the videos are only available for 30 days, but the MP3s are there forever.
Okay. And so the next one is June 26th.
Yep, that is correct. And so the agenda will be put up 1 week before the meeting takes place. We have an amazing individual in Tucson, Marcia MacArthur, that also goes on social media and posts the meeting links for people on one of the Facebook pages.
That's how I always hear about it. And it's a
Yeah.
reminder. I always see that. So
Yes.
there are so many Facebook groups for massage therapists, and so many that I like don't know which one to look at sometimes.
Well, we have a few people in several groups, so some of the information gets repeated. There was something on here on this main page that I wanted to talk about. Was it
If
that?
somebody wants to get involved with the board, or I mean, it sounds like you guys could use some help, maybe.
We absolutely could use some help. And oh boy, do we need some help. Tom and I, the executive director, and I joke that we are the Arizona licensed massage therapist hot dog stand. And you're lucky if you'll get mustard with that hot dog that you just ordered. A lot of it is budget.
Yeah.
A lot of it's budget. We've asked for a bigger budget for 3 years in a row, and it has been denied to us every single time. We were approved for a budget for new software that's coming up that I will let Tom talk about in our next meeting, and has been talked about in previous meetings. He knows a little bit more about it. And the budget's been approved for that, but it has never been approved for more full-time employees. So we
People can volunteer, right?
uh, we wish I've run this past the executive director, and we're trying to think of legal ways that we can make it happen.
Okay.
Volunteering, we just have to be careful because some of the job requires handling sensitive information. So
So you'd have to still
yeah,
go through all the screening and all that kind of stuff.
yes, exactly. Do know too that by attending a live state board meeting, you can obtain 3 CE hours to go towards your renewal, and that will be applied to the online portion of the hours. But even if the meeting is not 3 hours, if it's only an hour and a half because chair writer is talking really fast, you still get 3 hours.
So how do they get those?
Okay, so there is, let's see, there was a way to do it when click on meetings.
I mean,
and-
I don't need the CE, but I've attended.
No,
I don't
I've
remember.
used it before. There is, I
just
think,
didn't know.
let me click on the meetings again. Because I know that there is a form, and I think it's at the top.
Right there in the middle on top. There. Oh, no, down. Right there.
No?
No, that's criminal
No,
reporting.
that's gonna be for, but I think, I believe it's on the notice and agenda. Let me just open that up really quick. Because if you're logging in, I don't get to see it because I chair the meetings, so I don't know what it looks like from, from another person's perspective of joining the meeting. But I believe somewhere there is something that they click and fill out, and they send it to the info massage board
Okay.
email, and the hours are applied
Okay.
to. So, and on all the agendas, the meeting link is there, and I just have to click on it to join. So I know that there are some things I need to know a little bit more about.
Okay. I mean, they could always maybe just email the board and say I attended this meeting, and they can verify it by the.
That's literally what I did, and I did that as the chair.
Yeah.
I said, hey, Tony, can I have 3 seat hours since I ran the meeting?
I just didn't even ask for them because I'm like,
Yeah, and you can only do 3 per renewal.
yeah,
So it's not one that you could do every year or every month, but it's only 3 per renewal that can be applied.
and that's every 2 years now. I
Correct.
think that was
Correct.
another thing that people were getting mixed up on.
Oh,
So,
that's what, and now I remembered what I was going to talk about was the birthday thing.
yeah,
Everybody's talking about
3 years for a while, and then it was 2 years.
no,
And
it should, well, one, it should never have been 3 years. If they got 3 years, they got lucky.
yeah,
Because that shouldn't happen. So the board recently had an audit, and according to state law, no board can issue a license longer. Well, I shouldn't say no board, at least our board, I know for certain, cannot issue a license longer than 2 years. Absolutely. So what has been consistent in our board rules, which indicates on the license holder's birthday, is not consistent with the state rule. And the
Right.
state rule says every 2 years. It says nothing about the license holder's birthday. So now, because we've been audited and we've been scolded really, really hard for that, as people are starting to see that when they go to check their name on the website underneath the massage therapist search tool, that their date has changed, that their expiration date has changed.
yes,
And some people have panicked because their expiration was sooner than they originally thought.
right.
And yes, that is very upsetting. So that's another reason why we should always check the board website and see your activity with your license. What happens with that, and people got upset because they're like, well, they took 3 months away from me. That's not fair. But you got the 3 months in the beginning when you sent your application. So you got 3 free months in the beginning of the license, and now unfortunately it's being taken away, which is I'll just say it. It sucks.
Yeah.
But it's the law and we have to do it. We're being forced to do it. Now, I believe that things started happening retroactively about 10 years. It was only supposed to be maybe 2 years. I'm not sure what's happening with that. So there's some people that are going to see a change in their expiration date from their birthday that is retroactive to when they initially filled out their application. And then there's other people that it's going to remain their birthday. It just depends on how long they've been a licensed massage therapist. And so, and I could say that, and I could be wrong on that too. Maybe it doesn't matter how long you've been a massage therapist in Arizona.
But like,
There's
say you missed it or whatever, and it's late, and so say mine's May 2nd, in case you want to save up for my birthday next year. But
sure.
yeah, but so like say I was late and I just oh no, now I just renewed now and it's June. So now I'm legit and I'm licensed. Now it'd be 2 years from this date. It doesn't go like back to the original date, does it?
That's what remains to be seen, and that's what we're trying to hammer out because we're still getting some conflicting information from the auditors about what that's supposed to look like.
Okay.
So I believe it should still be, it should not be from your new application or your new renewal submission. It should be from the date that you originally had. So we're hopefully going to be talking about it at the next meeting because it does seem to be very confusing. It's a big question that's being asked.
Okay. Well, that's all I can think of.
Well, awesome.
You can always
I
make
know that was a lot of information.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't think I have time to categorize it into little points, but yeah.
No, I think this is great. Again, I would just encourage everybody to visit the website at least once a month just to see what's going on, check out a meeting, see if anything's changed on the homepage. That's where you're going to get the most accurate information. You're going to get more accurate information from the board website than you are any social media
Right.
outlet. So,
All right. Well, thank you for your time and clearing all that up, and I will get this out to our community.
perfect, absolutely. And I'll be happy to share it as well. Thank you so much, Tammy.
Thank you, Angie.
Bye.
Mwah. Bye.
Bye.